Hello, I've been on YouTube for about 7 years now, and in that time, I've revealed a lot about myself, but I've never really sat down and connected the dots or even really introduced myself. And so, since a lot of you are new, I thought I would finally do that. And longtime viewers will think this is a big setup to a joke, and so let me just diffuse that right now. So, my name is Jeremiah. Some of you still don't believe that, but it is. I've lived in Maine all my life. I had a very pleasant upbringing. I had an older brother and sister, and we used to make these little movies together. Then they went off to college, and I had to figure out ways of making movies on my own. I did have friends, but they were perhaps not as comfortable being on camera as I was. And of course, I drew a lot and dabbled in animation. And when I got to high school, I got into theater, I studied mime, I got involved in local public access. And after high school, I studied film at Rockport College, which is now Maine Media College, I believe. After film school, I didn't know what to do with myself. I mean, I knew I wanted to make a film, and I had this film trapped in my head, and so my plan was to write it and get it made one way or another. And so I struggled with that for years, and I just went in circles. And I took whatever jobs I could, like serving coffee, and I discovered I really wasn't cut out for customer service.
I just want a regular coffee!
But then I don't really think anyone is, despite the lies they tell themselves at night. And as the years went on, my anxiety started to build. I started to feel sick all the time, and I felt trapped. And I didn't really understand why until I realized that I didn't have a creative outlet. I was spending most hours of the day doing something I was only marginally competent at, which can really eat at you after a while. And then finally, YouTube came along. And I started making these little videos using nothing more than iMovie and Google Images. And when you look at these early videos, what you're seeing is a man very eagerly and desperately trying to reconnect with his passion. From the beginning, I always felt very safe being honest on YouTube, even when it burned bridges. I mean, I had this feeling that nobody was going to see it, even though clearly they were. From these humble beginnings, I became acquainted with a British writer named Ishmael Lasting, and he had this idea for a series called Church of Blow about this sad little man trying to start his own YouTube religion.
I'm gonna show you a video I made some time ago so you can see how much I progressed as a human being since that point. Now this video was made about 3:30 this afternoon. Hi, I'm Reverend Cornelius Blow. Welcome to my church. I want to talk to y'all today about how the world is all frigged up and rotten, and how the only plausible reaction to the horror that is humanity is to withdraw in disgust, curl up in a ball, and die. Now, you see, I was so negative back then.
And it was wonderful to have this series that I could really sink my teeth into, and I didn't have to worry about the writing. I could just focus on the performance and creating an atmosphere.
I'm the actor who plays you. You're the what now?
It's that wonderful feeling where it's like you show up to school and nobody knows you, nobody knows what your talents are, and you can still surprise them.
YouTube is my life.
Yes, it is.
So we did this music number that had nothing to do with the rest of the series, and it got featured on YouTube's homepage, and it got a lot of attention. It got the sort of attention you think you want until you actually get it. And so it became less fun for a while, and I posted less and less. I was feeling better. I was still anxious. And I still avoided leaving the house if I could help it. But then something happened that took me out of my comfort zone. Took me 3,000 miles out of my comfort zone. One day, a French theater director just stumbled on one of my videos because he saw a thumbnail with my face on it and he thought it was his own face. And so he clicked on the video, and not only did we sort of look alike, we sort of acted alike. And so he got in touch with me and offered to fly me to France just to meet and talk. Even if this hadn't resulted in a job, I would have considered that a victory. And so I went to France, and we met, and he put me in costume, and we tested our likeness on stage, and he offered me a contract. And so for 3 years, I was an associated artist, and it took me a while to figure out what that meant. He had this sad clown character that he sort of gave me, and asked me to do a series of videos. I was able to explore some of my other influences, like Buster Keaton or Spunkmeyer, and also he was going to develop a show. It all seemed so improbable and bizarre, and I had no idea how to explain this to my YouTube audience. And so I didn't. Well, I did what I always did, which is I sat down to record a video blog and got frustrated and gave up. And so we just started posting these videos, and I just hoped, people would sort it out. It was living a dream. A good dream. The sort of dream where somebody builds a life-size replica of Da Vinci's Last Supper using statues that look like you. I mean, we've all had that dream, I think. The high point of the experience is when we premiered our show at the Festival of Avignon, which I, being a stupid American, didn't understand how big a deal that was, and I think that's what got me through it. And so about a year ago, the contract was up. I was burnt out. I came home. I had packed on some pounds. I was feeling older and tired. And I really didn't know what to do. I went back to my old job, and that was miserable. And so I did what I always do in this situation where I'm feeling uninspired. I delved into my past.
Hi, Jeremiah.
Hello, Jeremiah. I'd done an earlier version of that video, of course, and I hadn't really hooked into what would make it work.
Well, I guess that's all I want to ask you.
Well, thank you.
And I'm glad I waited until the 20th anniversary because I was in the right state to make that video. I think that brings us up to speed, and so... Any questions?